If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we're back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, sadly, this morning, we heard that there was a shooting at a Minneapolis Catholic school. At least 2 children are dead. I'm sorry. Multiple injuries. And many of these children are now being treated at local hospitals. We're going to give you the latest. There is a currently at our local time, live time of this show, currently, the police are giving updates. So we're going to give you as many updates as we have in the meantime. But we are being told that this was the start of your mass at the Annunciation Catholic Church Wednesday morning in Minneapolis. We're being told that the shooter was dressed all in black, had a semi-automatic weapon, and quote-unquote pepper sprayed bullets through the stained glass windows. At least 16 children were injured, but we're going to be getting more numbers soon, according to a local hospital. And apparently he shot at least 50 to 100 shots or rounds while students and staff were in pews. 2 children thus far dead. We are hoping no more. Unfortunately, this is so tragic. And I believe this was the start of the school year, and this was the early mass, or the start of the year mass. The shooter is dead. We believe that he turned the gun onto himself, according to local reports. The city of Minneapolis confirmed that the gunman had been contained, no longer an active threat to the community. I know some of you had reached out going, what does contained mean? Doesn't mean he's locked in a room. Is he barricaded? Contained means the situation is contained and means it's not getting out. It's not going to evolve anymore. So oftentimes that does mean that the shooter is either in custody or dead. So initial reports said he was contained. Now we're being told the shooter committed suicide. We don't know who the shooter is. No manifesto yet. No motive. But apparently he stormed this Annunciation Catholic Church on 54th Street around 8:30 a.m. local time. Their classes just started. The school just started on Monday. So we're on day 3. But they were at Wednesday Mass. You saw a little boy kind of walk out of the church telling his dad, I don't feel safe. I just couldn't imagine what these kids are going through. We were watching some of these kids get to leave with their parents, and the look on their face. It's a look you don't usually see in a child. And the fear, the what did I just see, the disbelief and the utter horror was being displayed by these kids. And they weren't talking, they were silent coming out, and you just saw the worry on the parents' face. I believe currently they are trying to medically we have a 10-year-old boy who sustained a gunshot wound to the head. From what I understand, has been transported to the hospital. We believe that he's still alive while they are trying to save his life. And then many of the children were evacuated from the church. It was just a scene you didn't want to see. And Minneapolis, I love Minneapolis. Minnesota is, again, one of the most beautiful states in this country. Unfortunately, until we know more about how this happened, it's going to put everybody on unease. I believe the school, it's a church that has a connected grade school. So these were grade school children. And I believe it's pre-K through 8th grade. And on Wednesday morning, they hold 8:15 a.m. Mass. I believe they've been around since the 1920s. And the students were in their green uniforms, ready to go to school, class. As a parent, I was always nervous. There'd be school shootings, and I had to decide to take my kids to school. And it's as a parent, I think until we feel safe, for those parents who say, you know what, I'm not ready, that's fine. As much as we want kids to be around other kids, like what we saw what happened with the Uvalde shooting. It was the last day of school. There was a ceremony in Uvalde, Texas. The parents were there, end of year awards. Then the parents were to leave and the kids were supposed to go back to class and finish the last day. And one of the children, the little girls, told the parents, can't I just go home with you? And they're like, no, you got to finish school. We'll pick you up at the end of the day. They never saw her again. She was one of the victims of the Uvalde school shooting. And in America, one thing we should have right and we should have down, and it should be down to a perfect science, is keeping our schools safe, keeping our churches safe, our temples safe, our mosques safe, our malls safe, our universities safe. This should be down to a science, and it's not. And we're very, very vulnerable. And I'm not seeing the response that we need. And we keep hearing, well, no guns, no guns. These individuals are getting a hold of weapons. And I think the answer is more security, more protection. You don't hear of school shootings in Israel because there's plenty of, there's plenty of armed security and military presence. And so you don't hear of that. The schools are safe in multiple other countries. And one of the common denominators is there being more security. And unfortunately, these were individuals going into mass and in mass. That's not, considered a high risk time. You're supposed to feel safe enough to go in and pray. And if we can't get our schools safe, there is going to be a growing call from parents to want, them not drop their kids off at school. Anytime these shootings happen, you know what the parents are thinking. They're thinking, why would I drop my child? Why would I put my child at risk? And if at any time there could be one of these mass shooters, we need to look at our schools and we need to do a better job. And I get there's a lot of schools. There's a lot of private schools. There's a lot of churches that have Sunday schools. This is a school attached to a church that, pre-K through 8th grade. But there is a finite amount of schools. There's a finite number. And we could calculate what we need. And if we do need Trump to bring in National Guard, we do what we need to keep our citizens and our kids safe. The 1-877-Daliah, don't go away.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new, lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
All right. We are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So some of you were really, really excited to hear that Eli Lilly has come out with a pill form of a medication, not yet approved by the FDA, but an oral GLP-1 agonist called orforglipron. And its success in terms of weight loss and meaningful hemoglobin A1C reductions. By the way, as it pertains to diabetes, that hemoglobin A1C or glycohemoglobin, how I look at it is how sugary the blood cells are. You do that test every 3 months because roughly the life of a red blood cell is 120 days. So you can't be doing that test every month to check for your diabetes. And you could do a fasting blood sugar or a non-fasting blood sugar. But in terms of evaluating your hemoglobin A1C, it's something we do roughly every 90 days because most red blood cells turnover at about 120 days, so you could get a better idea. We just don't want to wait 120 days, so we do it every 90 days if your diabetes is not in good control. And so apparently Eli Lilly's oral GLP-1 or orforglipron medication did pretty well in their trials. Significant weight loss, I believe 25 pounds. Meaningful A1C reductions, improvement in cardiometabolic risk factors at 72 weeks. And when you take it once a day without food or water restrictions, they say it lowered weight by an average of 22.9 pounds compared to placebo, where people only lost about 5 pounds. So 10% of one's body weight is huge. Now, for those of you saying, I need to lose 60 pounds or 80 pounds, this is why a lot of people are getting disappointed with these weight loss injections, because they're like, wait a second, losing 20 pounds is good, but I need to lose more. And then many people stop. They don't end up continuing to lose, and then they get frustrated, and then they quit. Or now they feel like if they stop the medication, they're going to gain the weight back. Again, these medications are not bariatric surgery. It's not something that's going to limit your weight by 20, 30%. But a 10% drop or 10.5% is huge. So the next question people have is, okay, if they pass the trial, the ATTAIN-2 trial, how long will it take the FDA to approve the drug? Well, it depends. If it's fast-tracked, about 6 to 9 months. Normally, it could take 1 to 2 years. So it could still take a while. And then the next question people ask is, how much will it be? Well, I'm hearing it could still be around $1,000 a month. And I know this is very frustrating to people because they are hoping that an oral pill might be cheaper than the injectable. And by the way, an oral pill should be cheaper technically because you don't have to pay for the cartridges, or the company doesn't have to pay for the cartridges and the needles and the packaging. The pills are technically a cheaper way to go. But no, because of demand, because of research and development, it's going to cost that kind of money. And then the final question people have is, well, should Medicare be paying for this? Should we get it for free on the government dime? And then is it free if taxpayers have to pay for it? So I'm mixed. From a diabetic standpoint, for people who have diabetes, I think these medications should be covered. With what they do with diabetes and help people lose 10% of their weight for diabetic control, which is huge, yes, I think it should be covered. For people who weigh 130 pounds that want to lose 10 pounds, right? 13 pounds or 10% of their weight, no. I don't think taxpayers should pay for that. If you have no comorbidities, as much as I want to prevent the obesity, it just costs too damn much. So no, costs too much. We're not there yet. When the medications become cheaper, then. But for taxpayers to pay $1,000 a month, no. That is very frustrating. Now, I am sure that Eli Lilly and these companies probably would broker a deal with Medicare, but still, even $500 a month is extremely expensive. But we are going to be seeing, especially with the next election, this debate on getting weight loss drugs paid for. And you're going to have a politician saying, I'm going to make sure Medicaid and Medicare pays for it. Yay, let's vote for you. Yay. Especially with free grocery stores and free bus rides. Yeah, let's go for it. Socialized medicine's the way to go, and socialism, yay. So there's going to be somebody that is going to very incorrectly explain what the situation is, act like it's going to be very, very easy to make the government pay for it, and no. And I would be willing to consider the government paying for it and tax dollars going for it if the following happened. One, the medicine was cheaper. Two, if the medication doesn't poop out or plateau. What I'm seeing in patients is after 6 months or a year or whatever time frame they're on, they stop losing the weight. And then they freak out that if they stop the medication, they gain it back. So they're basically taking the medication because they're afraid to stop it. I need to know that there's no more poop out rate. I also would want these companies, just like Eli Lilly just did, be very transparent about, guys, we're looking at 25 pounds on average. We're not looking at 60 pounds. And then we identify which individuals, need that 25 pounds as their goal weight, where we could solve a lot of their problems. If somebody needs 60 to 80 pounds and they will not stay with a consistent exercise program, a diet program, I would think of another option for weight loss. So, our tax dollars are few and far between. And now Eli Lilly, I believe, the CEO was asked in an interview on Fox News about the cost and with Medicare covering it. And the answer they gave, which is, of course, the answer that I would expect pharmaceutical companies to say is, look, if we are preventing diabetes and diabetic complications and heart disease and stroke, overall, these medications are going to save money. Now, he's not wrong. If we cure obesity and we solve that problem lickety split, we could really reduce the amount of money we've been spending on cancer, diabetes, etc. That's one of the reasons why we have such high costs. We went from being skinny and smokers with lung cancer and heart disease to now obese non-smokers with heart disease and cancer as well. So we need to come up with a way where people don't go back to smoking and aren't reliant or dependent on something to be skinny. These medications do not cure obesity. They help people while you're on it. Now, there are some subset of the population where once they lose the weight, they keep it off. Congratulations. That's awesome. But that's not the majority of people. So we have got to rethink how people are using these medications. Yeah, I had a patient who was having abdominal pain, and I looked at her medication. She was on Zepbound, which is the Eli Lilly counterpart. Right? No, Ozempic does Wegovy, and then Mounjaro. Yeah, so it's Eli Lilly's weight loss drug. And she weighed, she was on the medication, just recently started 6 weeks ago, and she's 5'2" and weighs 127 pounds. What? But she wasn't diabetic. I don't want to pay for that. If somebody cosmetically, wants to do cosmetic surgery, pay for whatever on their own, they have every right to do that, as long as it doesn't keep these medications away from individuals who need it. But Zepbound is the weight loss drug. Zepbound is the weight loss counterpart for Mounjaro, used for diabetics. So Zepbound implies they're using it for weight. She's 127 pounds. We also have to make sure there's not going to be a shortage of these medications. You can't start people on them, run out, and then they gain the weight back. So right now, I don't think it's cost effective until you prove to me that this is a medication that will cause permanent weight loss, will be easy to stop without people rebounding. There'll be plenty of it and cheaper. I'm not ready for the government dime or tax dollars to go for it. For for healthy people who want to lose weight. For people with comorbidities, we got to do something to help them. 1-877-DOC-Daliah.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Lowe's has the Labor Day deals you need to give your home a new look. Buy one, get one free select interior paint via Visa gift card rebate. Then, add the final touch with 2 for $8 on select 2.5 or 3-quart mums. Refresh your home and save big while doing it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 9/3. Mums offer in-store only. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowes.com/rebates for details.
Welcome back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So my husband, Corey, and I don't fight that often. We really have it down to a science because I take credit for this. I don't sweat the little things. If there's an issue I think needs to be addressed, we'll address it, but I'm not going to yell at him or argue with him or say, well, you're not going to go out with the guys or you're not going to. I want him to have as much freedom as possible as long as it doesn't involve, freedom with another woman. Which is, he's good. He's very loyal to me in that respect. Never cheats. And I just, I think we eliminate a lot of fights because it's just not worth the hassle. There's, things we could talk about and communicate and we're working on it. But when I get mad at him or frustrated is when he doesn't understand me. So, or he doesn't get me. And so if we've been married for multiple years that we have, and then he does something half-assed, which he knows I don't like, and then he acts shocked that I would be concerned about something like that, I'm frustrated because I'm like, you don't know me, do you? I mean, why are you questioning? Now, I learned he's not questioning. He knows he's just plain dumb. Like I was worried about something with his health, and he gets all mad that I'm asking. When he doesn't want me to bring something up, he starts to raise his voice and get all defensive and so I don't bring up the topic. I'm not scared of him. I'm going to bring up the topic. I don't care how much you bark and whatever. I'm not afraid of your bite. I'm going to, if I'm worried about your health, I'm going to bring it up. And he's like, why are you asking me about that? I'm like, because if you die, I need to find a new husband. So I need to know, do I have to go get cosmetic surgery now or not? Of course, I'm worried about you, idiot. So I get frustrated when I feel like you don't get me. Well, interestingly, people have been watching this DNC speaker, Insha Rahman, who is vice president of advocacy and partnerships for a criminal justice reform group, Vera Institute of Justice. And I'm watching her speak, and she's bringing up migrant crime and carjacking, and she says, this doesn't matter to that many Americans. And I did a double take. I go, was she quoting somebody? Is she, or is that what she believes? This was during a political strategy session about crime and safety at the DNC summer meeting in Minneapolis. And Rahman urged Democrats to seize on President Trump's crime crackdown, as this is a way where we could maybe beat the Republicans in the midterms, etc., saying that the crime crackdown is a, quote, political liability. She said Trump is not about safety. This is a political power grab, and he will do it however he can, whether that's at the ballot box or taking over our cities. So she wants Democrats to reject the tough on crime scare tactics. Now, meanwhile, it's just so tragic. They just had this horrific Catholic school shooting this morning. And we're watching what's happening in D.C. with how there's been, I think there might have been one murder in the last 13, 14 days. A huge, drastic drop from what we have seen, over the past few weeks, months, years before the National Guard came in. And when you're watching the DNC say this type of stuff doesn't matter to Americans, and do you know who you're talking? I get that same frustration I get that I would with Corey. Really, you don't get it? Of course, people want to feel safe. And this is what I was talking about yesterday with, the reading the room and, people saying, well, this isn't, if you want the women voters, you need to, address things that are important to women. And immediately when somebody says that, I cringe. And I go, what? You mean Taylor Swift albums? What are you stereotyping women and our issues to be? Because anything other than national security, economy, education, foreign policy, healthcare, Yeah, what are you describing as a non-women, issue? The women care about that as well. And I really feel like the Democrats are not reading the rooms. I want America to be a country that is rich with ideas, rich with debate. We don't want single party rule. We don't want fascism. We want to know that we have Republican ideologies, Democratic ideologies, and what is the best way to move forward. But I think the problem the Democrats are seeing is that Americans do care about crime. They do care about the border. They do care about the economy, and they really care about the world not seeing their president as somebody feeble, having dementia, weak. I have a lot of friends and family who are, mixed politically. I'm nonpartisan. I'm not independent. I just register as nonpartisan. But I have a lot of conservative values, and then I have a lot of social values, and I can definitely see both sides. But one thing the Democrats are doing is they're losing the respect people had for the Democratic Party, where there's common sense. The Democrats were very much about, women and progressing women, as were the Republicans. But then the Democrats are now the party of no male, biological males do have every right to be in a female locker room and a female bathroom. And you just did a complete turnaround. Democrats were very, got a lot of credit for there being LGBTQ rights, fighting for children who were forced to go to these conversion classes to try not to be gay anymore and go through that painful conversion to be something they're not. And yet now the Democratic Party is the party that is urging kids go through the painful procedures to become a woman or a man who they will never be. Is anybody telling these individuals that you're not going to be, I want to be a woman, and they're thinking of Beyonce. You're never going to be Beyonce. We can't do surgery to make you Beyonce. We can't make you look like Timothy Chalamet or Brad Pitt, or we can't do, that's not going to be possible. You will never be a true male, a true female. And now the Democrats own that. And, if they stuck with their original philosophies, that probably sound like today's Republican. So, I hate the fact that we're being misunderstood. And they're going to continue to lose people in that party. The idea of we have to fight Trump, that's not going to work for them because Trump isn't running again. He can't. And I know he's joked around about it. No, he's not running again. So in 2028, there is going to be a different GOP candidate, whether it be J.D. Vance, whether it be Marco Rubio. I think both of them would do very, very well. And so what is the Democrat strategy? And I love strategy. I love political strategy. We talk about it a lot on the show. And so what the Democrats have to come up with is, one, come back to common sense. Oh, okay. We get that women don't feel safe. We're trying to, minimize, people's loss of privacy, allow women to excel in sports. We are going to work with those who have transitioned to be in the sport of their biological sex. Maybe we'll come up with another, shall we say, category, or we'll go by weight. I mean, they could go the common sense route. But instead, it's no, people don't care about migrant crime, and they don't care. Then if they don't get you, they lose you. The 1-877 Doc Daliah. Hi, everyone. Dr. Daliah here. As you know, blood banks across the country have declared critically low supplies. In response to this, governors have united for National Blood Donation Week. September 1st through the 7th is National Blood Donation Week, with September 4th National Blood Donation Day. And we are hoping this encourages millions of Americans to donate blood. When crisis strikes, the blood needs to be in the hospitals ready to go. But remember, the units need to be processed days before. And thousands of units of blood are already being used by hospitals on a regular daily basis. So blood supplies need to be prepared and delivered year-round. If you can't donate blood, don't worry. Please host a drive or even spread the word. It all saves lives. You could sign up to donate blood or host a drive at drdaliah.com. Follow the link to National Blood Donation Week. That's drdaliah.com. Remember, 1 pint of blood could save 3 lives. Imagine what the whole country could do.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one of you chewed me a new one. Not me personally, but you're mad at doctors because you have MediShare. And when you call telemedicine, they oftentimes tell you to go to the urgent care or emergency room. And you had needed an x-ray. And you're like, why can't they just order the x-ray for me? I save money. You all save money, and the telemedicine company wouldn't do it. And you have every right to be grumpy about that. So there's a few things I want to talk about. I think MediShare, the concept of MediShare is very cool. I don't know how much it costs the average person, but one way it works for people is, one, you're paying fewer premiums than the crappy Obamacare prices. But 2 is you have access to telemedicine companies. Telemedicine companies are cheaper. If you do not have a primary care provider, even though they have a large network of primary care providers that you could utilize and use, if you don't have one, then you might run into an issue. And so what I'm noticing with some Medicare patients is they have something that is more, shall we say, acute, of a higher acuity, and they don't already have a medical provider. So there's a list of them, but if they can't get in right away, now they are limited to, okay, I got to go to an urgent care or ER. And if you do go to urgent care and ER, that will be more expensive. That's just the name of the game. In terms of, however, as I've said, where MediShare works really well is if you are saving the hundreds of dollars a month, which from what I understand you are saving, you need to be putting those hundreds of dollars a month into a separate account called your health care account. Because if you do need to dip in that to go and get the test or get in with the provider or go out of network because you can't find somebody in your network quick enough, that money you saved could be then used for that. And so if the average person is not saving all those savings, they're going to get frustrated. So I don't have anything bad to say about MediShare, but people who are frustrated with it, need to be doing it right. And doing it right means whatever money you're saving, put into an account, because you will need to you will need to spend money on your health care eventually if MediShare doesn't cover it. Now, in terms of x-rays, etc., this is something that is probably people's biggest beef. They twist their ankle, they bust their toe, they have a shoulder issue, and they're like, all right, I need an x-ray. So they'll call up a telemedicine company. Telemedicine, there's a few different ways that telemedicine is done. One is if your personal doctor decides to take your call as opposed to see you in person. That's called telemedicine too. But telehealth and telemedicine is often done by doctors that never met you. And it's a company that you call up and then you get a random doctor. You usually will not get the same one unless you schedule and you set up in a primary care setting online. But you'll get a doctor and you'll say, look, I'm having trouble walking. My ankle hurts. It's swollen. And that doctor's going to say you need to go in right away. And you're like, but I don't understand. Why can't you order an x-ray? So the x-ray order you would think is very, very simple. And this is why people really are frustrated with doctors. They're like, all I need is an order. Let's get the doctors out of the situation. I'll order my own x-ray. I need an x-ray. And this is why AI is eventually going to take over a lot of telehealth medicine, because patients are saying, get the doctor out of the equation. This way I could save money and get my own x-ray. Where you're missing with that, and I get the frustration, but what you're missing with that is, okay, now you have the x-ray results. Now what? You have a broken ankle. Now where do you go? And so there are some patients that have been able to get blood work done. They've been able to get an x-ray without necessarily an in-person doctor being their go-to. And then they'll call telemedicine going, I don't know what to do. My liver enzymes are off. What do I do? And I'm like, well, you need to immediately call the doctor that ordered the labs and have them do some follow-up tests, because these are, kind of concerning. I didn't do this. I ordered it myself. I was able to get it myself. And so we have a lot of people now walking around with results, not knowing where to go. And where do we send them? To the urgent care. So they end up at the urgent care anyway. Now, there are some, for example, if you have an orthopedic issue, I'm noticing in Arizona, and I'm sure this is in multiple other cities, where there are orthopedic urgent cares, where rather than going to a regular urgent care, getting an x-ray, and then needing to be sent to an orthopedist, these are orthopedists that say, look, which is really smart, because my forte was urgent care and ER, even though I'm family medicine. So if I was an orthopedic, I would love that. Say, look, we're going to staff these hours, come in, we'll x-ray you, we'll splint, cast, or send you to surgery if that's what you need. So there's some of those facilities that are really, really cool. But the majority of you, if you have an issue that you get that x-ray, there has to be a doctor that takes that on. So I had a patient call up who thought they had a blood clot. So they're like, order my ultrasound. Well, in my private practice, I could order an ultrasound, but then if you had a blood clot, I would send you to the hospital, or I would send you to the hematologist, or we would start medication to thin your blood. These telemedicine doctors, they can't do that remotely. Because if you have a blood clot, who's checking your lungs? Who's checking your heart? Who's evaluating you as to why you have the blood clot? So getting that imaging is huge. It's just the liability. And also, it's not just your telemedicine providers, it's also your radiologist. If your radiologist finds that you have a mass or a possible tumor on your CAT scan, or you have something that needs immediate care like a fracture, okay, they are now it's on them. That they have the hot potato. So they have to now make sure that you get the care you need. Well, radiologists will contact your prescribing doctor in town. Daliah, it looks like you were right. He does have a DVT. Do you want me to send him to the ER, or do you want to send him to the ER? Or do you have somebody specifically you want to send him to? I'd say send him to the ER. I'm going to call follow up, make sure he went to the ER, and I'll call the ER and tell them he's coming. So you have that coordination of care. That is still very necessary. Even with all the, insurance sharing and less expensive options for healthcare, that stuff has to be done. If not, the radiologist is going to say, no, we can't do those tests here, because I need to know there's a doctor that has your back. remember why we're doing these tests. We've gotten very lax on, you know what, I'm just going to go to Mexico or Canada, buy some antibiotics, deal with my own issue, I'm good. And mind you, that has definitely unclogged a lot of the urgent cares and ERs, people, taking their own medication. On the flip side, though, we're starting to get increased resistance. We're having people that are losing out on the right treatment. We've had people with flu who have taken an antibiotic. Now they have worsening flu symptoms. They're starting to go into pneumonia, but they took an antibiotic when they really needed Tamiflu or an antiviral. Same thing with COVID. Somebody thinks they have an allergy and they're taking antihistamines. In the meantime, they're having a very fast-growing or a fast-spreading bacterial infection. Now, I know people think that doctors are just all about, well, they want the money, so they're going to be anti-do-it-yourselfers. I am not anti-do-it-yourself. I want you to have blood pressure cuffs at home, pulse oximeters at home, a home hospital bed type of thing where you could be taken care of at home and not have to go to the hospital. I think that stuff is cool. But in terms of, you know what, just let me order my own test and then I'll figure out. I've seen too many people stuck running around with a broken leg or a broken foot trying to, do it on their own, and you can't. 1-877-DOC-Daliah. Don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.